Welcome to Biz Coach and Coffee, where our guests are experts, entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants that share tips, strategies, and tactics to help small business entrepreneurs grow their business for long-term success. Please welcome your host, Biz Coach Steve Feld.
Hello, I'm Biz Coach Steve Feld, and my goal is to stop business owners from suffering entrepreneurial depression and start making running their businesses much easier. Business owners and entrepreneurs hire me to crack multiple 6 and 7 figures without burning themselves out. Today, we have another great guest for you. We have Jenn Espinosa Goswami. And Jenn, she is an ICF certified holistic coach at Weightless LLC, which helps small business owners leverage their expertise through paid public speaking. Coach of the Year finalist from the International Association of Women. And Jenn, she's an international speaker who has been featured on Authority Magazine, Thrive Global, Women's Health, and numerous podcasts. Jenn lives in Minneapolis with her husband, 2 daughters, and a gecko. Please welcome Jenn.
Thank you, Steve, for having me here today.
You know, listeners are going to go, what did they do before they hit record?
Keeping it interesting up in here.
That's all it was, folks. Well, Jenn, you've done quite a bit. You got the holistic. How did you get into business? What was that to make the shift?
The was doing something I had never considered doing as a kid, which was join my Toastmasters group at my corporate job. At the time, I was a corporate fraud investigator, so a lot of the work I was doing did not involve any sort of people interaction. And I thought, well, I need to interact with people. Maybe public speaking would be a good fit for me. And several years into it, I was a big fan. I became an officer. I won a few speech contests here and there. Turned out I had some skill with public speaking. And so when I lost my job, the mortgage market was very cyclical, and I did a lot of mortgage investigations. Even some companies you might have read about in the news, we did investigations on them too. Well, I decided that that wasn't really my passion. It wasn't what I went to school for, but I had a passion for public speaking. And I had some skill at it. So I'm like, okay, there are people who get paid to speak. Why can't I be one of them? So that's why I started Weightless, which was a public speaking company. Well, several years after that, I had audiences coming up to me because I was sharing about my own personal weight loss story, which was how I lost 100 pounds in 1 year. And I had audience members who were like, I want to work with you. Can you become my coach? So I thought, well, I'm a good listener. I have some really good skills with coaching that are typically in the coaching realm. Why can't I learn how to be a coach? So that's why I became certified as a coach. And it was really important for me to follow some standards and ethics that are internationally approved and recognized, which is why I went with ICF. Very
nice. Great. Yeah. Speaking of Toastmasters, I'm the club growth director for the state of Arizona, so I get it.
That's amazing.
So it has changed my life too. And folks listening, get those public speaking skills nailed down. You might think you're a great presenter. Get them, get rid of those fillers, those ums and those ahs and all that. You're going to sound so much more of an expert.
And you'll feel confident too.
Yes, you will. And hey, you can get a lot more money for being a better speaker. Exactly. It's all about the money. Well, great. Now, when people, who do you work with? Who's your clientele, your target market?
Yeah, well, during the pandemic, like many people, I decided to pivot my business model. So that means during the pandemic, I shifted away from health coaching. I stepped away from sharing my personal story of health transformation because, to be honest, I was no longer feeling as healthy and hale as perhaps I was prior to the pandemic. But I still had the passion for public speaking, and thank you so much. I was fortunate to continually book paid speaking engagements throughout the pandemic, which kept my business going. Coaching was a little bit more difficult to obtain coaching clients during the pandemic, but my speaking represents about 75% of my business model for income. So it made sense for me to say, okay, I'm good at speaking. I love coaches. I love the field of coaching. I want to support other coaches. So that's why I'm a public speaking coach who helps other coaches grow their business through paid public speaking. It's okay if you want to use speaking as a marketing vehicle, like through podcasting, such as yourself, or through other methods on Clubhouse or LinkedIn. But I focus on how to really find those paid speaking engagements and how to go through the sales process, which not a lot of people talk about.
Absolutely. It is a process. I mean, I get paid to speak too, and I had many gigs booked in before in 2020, and those went away with one quick swoop. So I made the shift. I went to the being a podcast guest. And then 2021, they started doing the online summit. So I started going back out there. There we go. And then now the stages are opening back up. But Jen made a great point. It is a process. You just don't go up to someone and go, I want to be on your stage. Right. And I think you're seeing that. A lot of people think it's that easy. Tell us a little bit more. It's work, right?
It is work. And what I tend to do when I'm working with clients is start with your talk. And one of the biggest mistakes, Steve, I see a lot of new speakers do, or even experienced speakers, is they customize their talk to whoever wants to hear them speak. They're like, oh yeah, you want to hear me talk about podcasting, you want to hear me talk about business ownership, you want me to talk about sales, I can do all of that. That's a problem because you don't become known for anything. So some of the work I do with clients in the beginning is help them refine and define what their signature topic is. We come up with a sexy title, we figure out what the audience takeaways are, because the interesting thing about selling your speaking programs is, yes, you know how you're adding value to the audience, but your client is the person hiring you. And their needs are quite different from what your audience is receiving from that content value added presentation. So you have to be cognizant of who your client is when it comes to a speaking program. So once we get through that piece, like, you know what your signature talk is, you know how to market it and how to start that sales conversation with someone, I help you figure out, okay, how do I target this to my specific market or niche? The corporate market is quite different from the association market. The processes you follow are quite different. You mentioned, Steve, that you did a lot of online summits. I also am a big fan of online summits, but I'm noticing a trend. Many of them require you to pay to play.
Yes.
And while there's nothing wrong with that model, they are also in business. It doesn't mean you have to start there or you have to feel like you pay into an opportunity. There are free opportunities and there are also paid opportunities, even in markets like today, where people are starting to do live events again, but perhaps not all the way there. There are still clients out there who will pay you to speak.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And you brought up a great thing. It's like the speaker wants to get on stages. It's just like in your business. You need to know who your target market is. What's the WIFM, that what's in it for me value. And remember, Jen brought up a great point. It's like who books you is not necessarily the consumer of your content. The people in the audience, those are the consumers of your content. But you have to have a great hook and have that WIFM for that organization so they can book you.
Yes. And it's really interesting because a lot of people think, well, how can I just settle on one signature talk because I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur? I'm an expert on more than one thing. And most solopreneurs are, and most consultants and coaches are. That's fine. What I help people with is determining, okay, you can have the same signature talk with the same title and change it and flex it according to your specific audience, because you may have more than one audience, or your audience may be at a different point in your customer journey than another audience. Like you might have your 101 audiences and you might have your 201 audiences. So it's really important to customize your presentation after you've come up with your signature talk.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I know a speaker who's been speaking professionally for over 30 years. They've had the same one speech, their talk, for 20 of those years. They don't vary from it, and they still get paid 15 grand every single time they deliver it.
Isn't that great? The repeat business from a single talk can last you for 30 years. It's hard to believe, but it's true.
Yeah. She's laughing. She's like, I've only had this one talk. It varies little over the years, barely changes. I might change a word.
Consistency is the hardest thing, right? Because you're juggling so many different balls in the air when you're working for yourself. You have to be ahead of everything. But consistency is what really is going to get you known as an expert in your field. And it's difficult to commit sometimes. I myself am a person who chases the fun, chases the creativity. We are very creative people, but it's good to be consistent. And that's one thing that I help my clients really dig into is how to be consistent, but still keep it fun and interesting for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's where they need someone like you to like say, whoa, easy, pull that horse back. I'm working with a coach right now, and he's like, well, I'm going to do 5 signature talks. I'm like, are you on drugs or something? It's like, let's work on one first. Let's get one down.
Yes, and then you can really hone in on your technique. One of the things I did recently was I reviewed a bunch of TED Talks, and people practice for months this same presentation, so they actually memorize it with their muscle memory because they're staging themselves as they're walking through their talk. The same sort of focus should be what you do for your signature talk, as if it is a TED Talk on a major international stage. That's where the professional experts come in and where you can start commanding the fees. I
couldn't agree more. It's funny you mentioned that because my TEDx talk just got released this week.
Congratulations.
Doing what you said is absolutely true. I said my presentation every day, not just weekdays, weekends, every day. I always committed 45 minutes to it because I know I can nail 3 of the times in there, back to back to back, reading it, then not reading it, voice inflections, everything. Then when it comes time to deliver it, it was like a yawner almost. My body just took over and I enjoyed the moment.
That is so awesome. And are you willing to share, Steve, did you have one of those, oh my God moments when you were on the stage, or did everything go smoothly for you?
Everything actually went smooth. I was getting ready to drive out and they had a COVID restriction at the venue. So they like, I hope you didn't buy your ticket. And I go, yeah, I did. Why? I'm coming out like in less than 12 hours. They're like, oh, we're on lockdown. You're going to have to record it like fast. Now I freaked out because I'm like, I'm ready to go. So I'm calling everyone I know that has who's a professional videographer and trying to find a venue. And we did that I found that all in 3 days. And that made me more nervous than the speech because I had to get it to him like immediately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a colleague who shared her story where she did a TEDx style presentation. It was a pitch for bringing TEDx to her city, actually. And she's an experienced speaker. Unfortunately, the day of, her mic was not on wrong. She totally froze and forgot her next line, which happens even if you're well prepared. You have to kind of roll with the punches sometimes. She had such a dramatic pause that she thought it was the worst presentation ever. Her audience loved it.
Yeah.
But the funniest part is she walked off stage and the behind the scenes crew was like, you did a fabulous job, so good. And she's like, are you kidding me? Her mic was still on and everyone heard her freak out on this behind the stage person. So I love hearing about other people's TEDx experiences and TED Talk experiences because things will go wrong.
It will.
But when you're prepared, you can roll with it.
We're going to actually take a break and we're going to come right back on that subject because that is something our listeners definitely need to understand what really goes on a lot of times on stages. So we'll be right back from a word from our sponsor and we'll be right back with Jen. Plan to have your best business year. Most business owners do not set time out of their busy schedule to create a solid strategic plan for the new year. And then they flounder around and have to figure out everything as the year moves on. So join us for our content-filled workshop where we're going to provide you the basics to create a solid strategic plan for your business in 2023. Have the roadmap you need to be successful. The link to join the workshop will be in the show notes. We'll see you in there. And we're back. So we're talking about things that can go wrong on stage. Now, is that something you work with your clients on?
I do, Steve. As you are aware, during the pandemic, I actually work with clients who not just want to go to the big stages, like the keynotes kinds of presentations, but also people who want to do maybe more workshop style, seminar style, the unpaid opportunities at annual conferences where they just want to get their credibility, share the stage with other people in their field. and also some video work, because I help people with maybe their first version of a speaker reel. I'm not a videographer. I don't have technology skills. And I personally don't have a sizzle reel. I don't have a speaker reel. It's not that I don't want one. It's just it never came up. And most of my virtual speaking is virtual. So you don't do a sizzle reel from virtual opportunities. You could, but it doesn't turn out as well. So I help people with their camera presence as well. And that has been the thing that allows people to feel confident enough in their presentation skills where they feel that they're ready for that next stage. Maybe your first stage will be an audio only, like a podcast. That's okay. I help you feel comfortable in your content, and then I help you get comfortable watching yourself, which is the hardest thing in the world to do. I hate watching myself. I hate listening to myself, but I'll do it so that I can improve my craft. And I provide really audience-centric type of presentation feedback. I'm not going to sit there and critique you if you're saying and all those Toastmaster type critique that you tend to get. Instead, I'm pretending that I'm an audience member listening to you speak. And so I'm focusing on the flow and the arc of your presentation. At the end of that presentation, could I tell you what the main points of your presentation were? What emotion am I left with when you're done presenting? And so when I give you feedback from that standpoint, it's easier for you to understand, oh, that's how my content hits for someone who may be new to this topic, or I'm approaching it from a way they've not heard before. And my call to action is solid so that they know how to take that next step with me, which a lot of speakers do this, Steve. They wait until the last 5 minutes of their presentation and they're like, here I am, here are all the places, talk to me. And nobody talks to them because that's not a good enough call to action.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. And you brought one thing I learned years ago, and my coach, I have a speaking coach too. Awesome. Because I realized I only know so much. You mentioned some things like, I hate looking at myself on video. I hate hearing myself. And my coach is like, listen, you got to get over this. And so I got over it years ago, but I still don't like it. And she's like, would you stop just being that hard? Because you're getting great reaction. Things that they were also working on. Do you work with them on like inflections, showing them the journey, if you will? Because your speech should be taking someone on a journey with you.
Absolutely. And I'm very intuitive kind of based. So yes, I do have templates and resources and all the good stuff. In fact, you'll learn more about my signature speech template, which is where everyone gets started if they want to join my community. But at the end of the day, I want my people to lean into their strengths. And with each client, it is a different strength. For example, I had a client recently she was a recently published author. And she's amazing at helping you declutter. But she has been spending the past 14 years kind of shut in her own world, not interacting with people, not putting herself out there. She's not a selfie type person. So we worked small with her in terms of, here's how you get more comfortable. Here's your content. She knew her content inside and out because it was a newly released book. Right. But I helped her kind of refine and edit. And that's another important piece for the listeners. If you have a presentation right now that you deliver, I would strongly challenge you to take a look at what you can remove from that speech. For example, if you have a 60-minute speech that you're pretty comfortable with, you're good at, can you get it down to 45 minutes? Because guess what? When you're up to speak, sometimes the lineup is such that you run out of time and your organizer is saying, I need you to end right now. And if you can't shorten your speech at a moment's notice without shortening the impact, you might be in trouble. I've had that happen to me where a 10-minute speech was suddenly shortened to 7 minutes because the speaker in front of me went too long. Is it unfair? Well, maybe, but as a professional, I was ready to roll with that. So we start with what your skill set is. If you are okay on camera and you have good phrasing, then we lean into those strengths really well. But if that's not your strength, then we look at what else do you do really well? Do you have strong emotion and good pacing when you speak? Then we lean into that. And also, it's always important to be aware of what you do. I talk a lot with my hands. Sometimes this doesn't work well in a virtual environment. So I have to be cognizant of that as well. So I notice certain things as a coach. That's my job, is to notice what's showing up. but also to ask the deeper reflective questions of, as a speaker, how did that feel for you? Because I want my speakers to know that they have impact every time they go up to speak.
Oh, yeah. I would say there's always someone who wants to hear your message, but you got to say your message. That's the key.
And it's easier when your message is well delivered as well.
That
easier
is
for you
so
and your
true.
audience.
I'm sure everyone, include listeners, everybody, we've all been to a conference, convention, whatever, and we've heard that, I'm doing air quotes, the bad speaker that just puts you to sleep, or you're like running for the door immediately. That's where you need someone like Jenn to help you, so everyone leans in. I'd say, you come on stage, you impact them right away, and they're hanging on every word until you walk off the stage, and then they want more. Now's when you can throw in the kitchen sink. Don't put it in your speech.
And don't be afraid you don't have to put on a persona, because I hear this sometimes where people are like, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to use humor, I'm supposed to be funny naturally, but what if I'm not funny naturally? It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. I may not have a style that every listener is going to be like, I need to listen to Jenn more, but there are people who are ready to hear what I have to say and how I deliver it. So understand that even if your style is not flashy and flaunty, and maybe you're not the most dramatic or expressive person, your message will be heard and it will be received well when you lean into what you're good at.
I couldn't agree with you more. I just heard a speech from an astrophysicist. He was an astronaut too. And they have a very dry and analytical. It was really good. I don't know anything about astrophysics. But it was because they spoke clearly, great pacing, an engaging story, and they didn't throw everything in. It was just enough to make you go, I want to hear more from this guy.
That's a really strong superpower as a speaker of a very expert, content heavy type presentation, where you can make it simple enough that someone outside of your field understands it. That's the mark of a truly great speaker.
Yeah, and it wasn't condescending like you would think, because he's, multiple PhDs in the whole 9 yards. So our guests usually like to give something to our audience that can help them in their business and their lives. What do you have to offer?
Yeah, well, I can help you really determine and refine what your signature topic is. And I do that through a resource called the Signature Speech Template. Now, I wish I had one of these when I was first getting started, because I did all the wrong things in my first few years of speaking, including having all of the different speaking topics. Don't be like Jenn. Get this free resource. It'll get clear on what your speaking goals are, including what audience would be a best fit for you. So when it comes to dreaming big, I want my clients to be clear what environment they will be speaking in as their perfect speaking engagement. And then I give you the points of the best outline you could possibly do for your signature speech and help you define what success looks like. For my clients, often it's getting paid to speak, but I have clients who are okay speaking for free, and then they get paid because they can upsell into their programs, which is a whole nother skill set. So if you are a person who's presented before and have failed to enroll anyone in your offerings, whether it's a book, a course, or a program, it could be because of the flow of your speech, and a small tweak here and there can make a huge impact for you. So I help you get clear on that. What is your goal? What makes a speech successful for you as a business owner? Sometimes when we jump into speaking, we're like, I'll just speak and try to get better at it. But the more intentional you are about your purpose for speaking, not just to add value, of course, all speakers add value, but if you want some more return on your investment in terms of working with a speaking coach, or even just feeling like that 60 minutes or 90 minutes on stage was a good use of your time that you're not spending on other parts of your business, then you can really make a bigger impact and reach more people with your message.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So we will have the link to Jenn's offer in the show notes. So please take advantage of her offer. Being very intentional with your speaking. I swear you can make a lot of money by doing this and create more exposure for yourself and your business. Jenn, I know we're wrapping up right here. Any parting words that you might have for our listeners?
I would love to share a little bit about how I first started believing that my voice had an impact. The first time I spoke, I recited the Gettysburg Address to my elementary school. I was awarded this opportunity because I memorized it and I was really good at memorization. So my first speech was not even my own words. The next time I spoke, I was devising my own words. That was in college. So many years had passed. And this time it was my own content. I was so passionate about studying abroad that I was going to different classrooms at my, they needed to sign up. When I combined both really great speechcraft with passion, that's where the magic is. So I would say if you have a passion for what you're currently offering in the world, and you think that speaking is something that you would be good at, you're interested in pursuing, or would move the needle for you at your stage of business, this is your sign to get started.
Excellent. Great. Jenn, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you, Steve.
And for our listeners, if you like Jenn, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel as well as our other experts and share it on whatever platform you are on. This is Biz Coach Steve Feld wishing you and your business much success.
We hope you enjoyed today's topic. If you'd like to discuss how you can apply these strategies in your business, let us know. This episode is sponsored by Spotlight Books. Get your own expert book written about you in 30 days. Set yourself apart from the competition. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Also, feel free to give us your comments. We look forward to hearing from you on Biz Coach and Coffee.